And that's why I asked two of my best friends, coaches, mentors, my partner in the United States, Bruce Piasecki, and Georgia Kartsanis. Georgia, can you please come first? Georgia Kartsanis is the founder and president of the CEO clubs in Greece and Romania, and she's also a leadership coach, having established SARGIA partners with her business colleagues and partners in Greece, Europe, and the United States. And she's also, I have to say, it's my personal and business coach sometimes. I turn to Georgia when I face serious challenges in both business and life. And she's also helped me a lot through the CEO clubs, you know, become more like a professional, you know, and develop my own career. And I have to thank her publicly for that. And also my big brother, he is Bruce Piasecki from New York. Bruce, you want to take a seat? Both these people bring, I would say, close to 70 years of experience, combined experience in working with multinationals. Yeah, without you know doing saying who's that. And I asked them to have a free and open discussion. It's like this is not rehearsed, really. I said, okay, let's do a rehearsal. What we're going to say. So an organization in the United States that has also an impact in Europe put forward a new proposition for the purpose of businesses, and it was an article in a newspaper. And I said, why don't you two guys talk about what is the future of corporation? What's the purpose, the new purpose of the corporation based on what we've been hearing today, you know? So I completely let it to you guys, see how we can do that. And I'm just going to watch the screen, and if there's any questions, I will immediately interrupt you, and I will ask the question, and anyone can pick it up. Okay? Is that good? Is that a good term? Yeah. Okay, great. So you can start.
Do you want me to start?
You have like 30 minutes.
I'm not going to start from the US. I'm going to start from Greece.
Fine.
And you can say the US situation. Yeah. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm very happy to talk about purpose and vision. It's the same thing for me. Actually, my big purpose 10 years ago, when I left the corporate environment and I had to see to view what value I want to give, I formed it, and it's developing leaders' bigger mind with vision, mindfulness, and agility. And I was very cautious following this journey towards this purpose. And everything I have done professionally, it's under this umbrella. The bigger mind of leadership with vision, mindfulness, and agility. All three companies I have, they follow this. I don't do anything else. And I really believe that corporations and leaders do have a bigger mind. They can step back and they can see that they can offer, and they should offer, bigger value to their people, to their stakeholders, to their shareholders, to their people, to their partners, to society. It's imperative to do that. Through my work also with SARGIA partners, the last 10 years, and CEO clubs, I have witnessed that we have been going through we were in a survival mode. When you are in a survival mode, with the exception of you are more mission-driven. You are more mission-driven for tomorrow. You lead with a value system, but not with a vision, because you cannot really see far away. Very important how you survive and how you serve your values. Your context is your values. Now that I think this is a little bit dangerous, because you do a defense game, and you cannot play defense game all the time. You need to look ahead, and you need to make really attack to things and do bigger things. So now that we are moving, and I have a strong sense that Greece is moving out of survival to contribution. Now the organizations, it's imperative for the leaders in the organization to see what value they can, greater value, they can provide for the future, not only of their people, but also for their partners and for society and the ecosystem. So now the purpose of organization is becoming much bigger, and it needs to become much bigger. And I believe this is going to invite commitment from everyone who can help develop the vision and make the vision, execute on the vision. It's an invitation to greatness. So one thing which is very important, I have to tell you, 3 big trends. First of all, I think nobody is going to have a different opinion. We're living exponential change, within an exponential change era, where technology plays a big fact in this. Now, if we don't contextualize why we want to use technology, we're going to become and serve technology. So the why, which is a vision, which contextualizes technology, is very important for us to create, human happiness and prosperity. So that's the one trend. Second, millennials. Millennials want to come to organizations because they do something. They really offer to the ecosystem, to human prosperity. They want meaning. Yes, the company needs to be sustainable. It needs to have profits. It needs to have economic growth. But that's not what attracts your new talent for the future. What attracts them is an inspiring vision which has more than growth. It's not a mission. It's something that offers back to society. It respects the ecosystem and protects the people and people's future. And the third thing, it's very important for people, and you see it in yourselves. I'm sure you see it every day. There is a lot of things happening, and you see we need direction in our lives. We need to prioritize things in our lives because there's so many things, there's so many distractions. You know, there is a leader from CEO Clubs. She's a new leader. She's a new CEO. She came to me and said, Georgia, everybody seeks direction from me. I go abroad, to my multinational colleagues, and they say, what are you planning to do? What is your vision for the future? And then I come to my people and they say, where are we going? Why do we exist? Everybody seeks direction. It's very important in this time where complex thinking is very important, is prioritization. Contextualize your work. So you can put your focus where it needs to go. And a vision, a bigger mind with thinking more inclusive is going to really tell you what you need to do today as leaders and where you need to drive your organization. I really believe of contextualizing your lives to something bigger.
Thanks a lot, Georgina. What I want to do is, in a minute, is have you clap for Michael Spanos because he's gotten these 12 substantial speakers in front of you today. And the purpose of this few comments that I have is about helping you visualize a way to redefine the purpose of a corporation. But Michael's doing it, and I think we want to thank him for that. So when I started writing about business and society I visualized a corporation as a mansion. I had grown up poor next to a factory and a railroad track, and so I would look at these various mansions by the beach and imagined what it would be like to get inside of it. And I think nowadays, as equity has increased for more people, we live in an equity culture. It's not equal, it doesn't offer equity to all, but many of us own stock. And so what I'd like you to do is, in thinking about the purpose of those mansions and thinking about the reason you want to get inside those mansions or thrive near them, is that they are the source of wealth, invention, and good health. It's inevitable because the state governments and federal governments and hospitals and other places cannot do it on their own. So the first image I want you to imagine is a mansion with a beautiful stairwell going up 2 or 3 stories in it. And as an individual, ask yourself, what is the equipment that you need to be able to even get in the front door? And I think Michael Spanos embodies a lot of these attributes, and that's why I've been to many headquarters with him over the years. So I want you to visualize this for yourself. I think it takes first a gracefulness. If you're coming to the front door with weapons of partial destruction, they will maybe choose to lock the door as opposed to welcome you in. So grace is a type of human attribute that is at the very essence of an exchange. When we shake hands, when I embrace you or you embrace me, it is an act of grace. At least that's what my mother taught me. But I think it also, once you're in the front door, it takes force to get up the stairs. Corporations are very structured. The people who earn their keep are either people who are going to keep you down the stairwell so that you don't annoy the precious time and decision-making of the people high up in the mansion. And so I would like you to think about, in your experiences, how Michael, and in the future, has the Michaels of the future, they have both grace and force and fascination. Now, fascination is a poor boy like me getting inside the mansion and just being astonished at the true finer things inside the mansion, the condition of law, the state of the technology, how money is made and shared, and so forth. Now, fascination means that Michael can invite all these 12 speakers. He can have the Euro Development Bank, right? He could have Matt come from the $3 billion Trillium, right? He can have the conference board, which might be thought, if he didn't have fascination, as a potential competitor, right? He could have GRI, right? He can bring with fascination to you. So I would argue that the modern corporation is semi-osmotic. It is like a cell. It is a cell and a mansion. The difference between a mansion is that you can make big mistakes and just use the best lawyers to repair it. But if you begin to realize that this is a living mansion, that it's actually osmotic and information flows into it from stakeholders and it flows out of it, and that we can see it and we could get into it with less and less effort, right? Any corporation you want to penetrate, all you have to do is go and listen to their last quarterly disclosure. I suggest you go, for example, to our client Merck. You can see their CEO talk about 88 slides in which you can look deeply up the stairwell of that mansion. You can learn with ordinary knowledge how they make their money in oncology or animal health or specialty medicines for superbugs and so forth. My point being is that the modern corporation today competes on price, quality, human talent, ESG metrics, and social needs. And that's why I think it's significant for you to think of this mansion that you're either working in or working beside or supplying as in a neighborhood, because there are so many social needs. We learned, for example, from Brian Kellogg today, that one of the great social needs of the near future is mobility, right? Not only mobility that's connected cars, but the mobility of people as we lose mobility as we age. right? My mother-in-law lived in my house, and I know the changes we needed to make the last 6 years for her in a wheelchair. So when Brian is talking about mobility, he's really talking about the corporate purpose of mobility, and it's to get you to have a life, to go to work, and to contribute. I think some of the other aspects of a social need in this robust new age of large corporations and small innovators is that a social purpose is education. And in my experience as a person who's been privileged, because I played basketball pretty well, to be invited to some of the best schools around, I think that corporations today are great forces of education. And they are doing things that we should recognize as demanding. When Unilever said a phrase that I will never forget, eradicating harmful bias, is absolutely a beautiful phrase that she mentioned in her talk. And you could see in the film of that young girl wanting to play soccer in the rain, how this massive corporation is understanding the power of competitive women, understanding the longing to get on the stairwell or in the game, right? And it's beautiful. When my father died, my mother took in foster kids, a Chinese sister and 2 Puerto Rican brothers, to make income for food above the veterans' benefits that he deserved as a soldier. And I'm telling you this because I grew up in a pretty rotten neighborhood, and still the society gave me so many benefits that it allowed me to climb several mansions. So I think that the problem I've always had with this argument that corporations are purposeless or that they are selfish only is that in my experience, when I get into them, there is a long need for them to want to provide cleaner air or cleaner water or more food production in arable lands, even though they have an incomplete record and a record of devastation at times. I think that our jobs in the future is to knock on that front door, get into it, and make sure that all major firms realize that they're not only within themselves, but that their massive staffs have a service to the neighborhood.
Bruce, 2 questions arrived.
Yes.
Recently, the Business Roundtable in the United States redefined the purpose of a corporation to promote an economy that serves all Americans. Can you comment on this? I mean, can a business serve all citizens?
Well, I think that the signature of these more than 130 CEOs from the Business Roundtable, they were talking about providing well-being in society. They were providing full and fair wages. They were talking about the need to have a social purpose. What will remain the test of time is that how do we account for that? How do we demand as we knock on the front door? But I think the fact that the Business Roundtable is doing this is quite astonishing. As we enter a world in which we're both carbon and capital constrained, this organization of CEOs, which used to simply lobby for status and lobby for the status quo, is beginning to recognize the things you're all interested in. So that's a very good sign. Yeah. It's just a beginning. They have very far to go.
Georgia, you want to comment maybe?
I believe they understand that the countries, they don't have any more a vision. I don't hear a lot of countries have a vision. So I think they're taking into their hands the human prosperity and the environment prosperity. They say, since the country is not going to do something, we're going to do something. That's what I read. It's imperative. It's imperative that companies look at have a bigger vision, including all these aspects of sustainability and human prosperity.
Another question says, in times of crisis, we've seen a lot of solidarity by people and organizations at the bottom of the pyramid, but proportionally less from major corporations. Why should this change now?
Do you want to go first? Or? Well, I think we have a lot to learn from this one from someone who runs a CEO club, because I think when you look at the 4 or 5 times I've been enabled to see the CEO Club of Greece or the CEO Club in Boston or Texas, what you get a feeling of is companies that are sharing best practices and companies that are sharing the habits of leadership that move us towards social response capitalism rather than speculative capitalism. So I see a time when the things that I worried about 38 years ago are going to become more likely. It is true that the degree of urgency has more than doubled or tripled. I was on the White House Council for Sustainable Technology during the Gore years when we first tried to launch, Clinton and Gore, the climate change issue. And it was a horrible example of how forceful the oil and gas lobby was. So I think we now live in a time when the car of change is not going to be stalled through negative lobbying. I think more and more people, they could be at the bottom of the pyramid or they could be slightly better advantaged. They can lobby for change in a social lobbying form, not just a federal lobbying form.
I have nothing to add on this.
I'm going to pick up from something you said before. So you do leadership coaching for CEOs and companies, both of you. How about leadership and coaching to the governments so that these two can be aligned? Who's doing that?
Well, I think they need a different type of cure, but anyway, I don't know. They may have companies that do that. I believe Greece, I strongly believe Greece needs a purpose. I think Greece, than any other country right now, needs a vision, and it needs to start from the government. It will really help give hope and inspiration to the people who have been beaten down for 10 years. And I have said I would do it for free. But I believe there are people there to help them. They need to know that they need help.
And you're working now on something that's, tell us about it, a couple of words, on leading from ground zero.
Okay, as CEO Clubs was formed in 2009, exactly when the crisis, so-called then, started. And everybody was telling me I'm crazy to bring CEO Clubs in Greece. Actually, I thought it would be harder to establish it as a strong organization then, because I said, who's going to want to come in this crisis and give this money and all that stuff? I have to tell you that in times of distress, leaders want to be together with other healthy leaders.
Absolutely.
It's like they're looking at a shelter, an oasis to share together, and I think it made it very inspirational for all of us who are in there. It was a big inspiration for me too. So the last 10 years, it was a big, it was big work that it was done with CEO Clubs with 150 members who are prospering. Every time I say, in the very difficult times, I used to say, how are you doing? Why do you nag? Who is doing good in this room? And all the hands were up because they were sharing. So I thought it was a good, a vision I had is to put this in a book. And this year we run all our themes and all our events under the headline of Leading from Ground Zero, and we're writing this book, which is Leading from Ground Zero, with testimonials from 22 CEOs, and obviously you're in there, and because you've done a lot of great work the last 10 years. So it's amazing and so inspirational to hear these people, what these CEOs, what they had to go through, what fears they had to fight, and how they conquered their fears, and they're monsters, and they became bigger. They helped their people and their companies to be here and alive, right, Alex? So I'm very proud. The book is going to be released on the 10th of December. We're at our gala, 10-year gala dinner. Very proud of that.
2 minutes each one of you before we close this. People are very tired. We've been bombarding with them a lot of questions.
My thought was to open it up to spontaneous comments as opposed to written comments, because I think my first comment about force, grace, and fascination, I think
Microphone closer.
more important than the corporation is the individual, because you are the agents of change. You are the agents of change. And I think it's not doable unless there's a swift and agile, forceful generation of people requesting these changes within the mansions. And so I don't think it always comes from the top. That's my thought.
All right, any spontaneous questions before I bring this to a close? Oh, I can see your eyes and your face is so tired. Okay.
Michael shoved 12 presentations in our heads. Thanks again, Michael.
Well, thank you all. Thank you.
That was fun.
Thank you so much, Georgia and Bruce. So, last thing before you leave this room and head for cocktails up in the roof garden, please give 2 minutes and complete the evaluation form, either through the conference or the hard copy you have in your delegates pack. Please do so while I make some announcements.